Of course, I envision myself naked with Will Arnett. I still am saying the same thing in this podcast. My mind has not been changed. It's just different now because now you're in a relationship. You guys know each other in a different way. She's a fan of you in a different way.
It's the Scott and Allie Not for Air podcast. The rules are gone. The shirt is untucked. Here's Scott and Allie.
So,
take it from the top.
Yep. Welcome to the Scott and Allie Not for Air I'm About to Grovel podcast. Let me take you back. If you have not listened to episode 108, the beginning part of this is probably not going to do you much. However, I'm going to take you down a road here. You're all at blame, too. 100,000% you're at blame. And yeah, I know
the
you're going to laugh.
The audience's fault?
Yeah, what?
The audience's fault?
No, you.
No,
they're fine.
I knew when the words came out of my mouth, I'm thinking, I know she listens. This is definitely going to come back in conversation.
Well, and here's the funny part about it.
I said what I said, and I don't regret it.
And the funny part about it is I did exactly what I always do. I followed you down the yellow brick road of hell. And
which we get in trouble for all the time.
No.
Yes, we're always in meetings, and they're like, well, one of you went down this conversation, the other one followed. Why did you do that?
It's always you that initiates the problem. I'm the one with the outs. You're the one with the ins and the problems. And so, okay. And I did say that and I don't know if I said this on the podcast or if I said this on the show or if I said this just to you in general.
Wait, do you have your phone on so that, if you say something that you can text her and say, is it okay, honey, that I said this?
No. I just, I was muting the phone because I have an appointment coming to the house later. And
I know, I'm kidding.
So I had told you, I said, what's really, really kind of interesting, and I respect this, is my significant other is not, and again,
do you like I'm leaning back? I'm like,
my phrasing is not probably going to be the best in this, but you have to realize I obviously have some pasts, We
all do.
There you go. So my present does not have an interest of being on the show, being called for segments, she did say, she goes, if there's something in the medical field that you need somebody to talk or say something, she'd be happy to come on. But other than that, she's not interested in being another member of the Scott and Allie Show or the Not for Air podcast.
I think if she had that personality, it would be fine. Like, whenever we bring in certain characters of the show, like I could see your auntie, somebody who's like old and cute.
Sure.
That she would be a great character for the show. Or if we have like our, cousin from Boston or, an Italian uncle who has like his Italianisms, then those work really well on the show. She is not the quote unquote star in the relationship as far as like being she's not the boldest, loudest person in the room.
No, and I
respect... for entertainment value, that just wouldn't work.
No, and I respect the fact that, she said, I don't need to be a part of that, I mean, I did tell her, look, there's probably going to be some times where we'll be in public and there'll be some curiosity about you. But, when that happens, people are very respectful. It's more of a fun thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it's never a judgmental, nasty thing. It's just, like, you are 6059. You are the doctor. You are Tiffany,
My significant other gets this.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's what it was. Now, like I said, she said if it was something that we needed, we did the hotel episode, if it was something like that, fine. Other than that, she's like, you do your show with Allie and the podcast, and I will just continue to enjoy it as long as you don't put your foot in your mouth like you did last week. And it all stemmed from you. Well, so here's...
And it all stemmed from you.
Well, you started out by saying... Now, listen, everybody meets everybody in different ways nowadays.
Yes.
For a while, you only met on dating apps. Go back a generation, you only met at the bar or the grocery store. So everybody meets in different ways.
Yep.
And you had said, well, she was a fangirl.
Yeah.
Now, I chuckle at that, but at the same time, I don't want it to be like, well, here I was filming a movie and she came up to the trailer, knocked on the door, and I'm like, oh, hi. No, it was nothing like that. And she goes, you could tell the real story. And I was dancing up until that point because I'm like, do you really want me to say this or not? Because when you hear it, you're going to go, oh, that really is kind of sweet. I mean,
well, she was a fan. You said she listened to the show. She listened to the podcast.
Oh, she does listen. Yes.
And she is a girl. So a fan and a girl.
Right. I mean, but when you hear fangirl, it's like going, I have a girlfriend. And then people are like, you have a girlfriend? No, it's a girl and a friend. Her name's Allie. You know what I mean? I know what you're saying by fangirl, but at the same time, I want to backpedal so that people know, hey,
what's the real story then? So you don't get in trouble.
Before I go any further, and let me also paraphrase this with a disclaimer, this comment will not get this podcast removed. My ex-wife needs to stop listening to this podcast and taking everything to heart as though this is the gospel according to my lips and your lips. It's okay. There's room for everybody, if you know what I'm saying. I love everybody, so relax.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to say, but
that's all that needs to be said. We'll leave it right there.
But also, and we've talked about this on the show, and I'm going to mention it again, for the most part, I would say 90% of who we are on the air is who we are off the air.
Sure.
But there is up 10% that is the private, that is who, for instance, we joke about how much I drink. I don't drink that much. Do I love having a good time? Can I easily slam a bottle of wine? 100%.
Shoot.
But
you really sold that one.
But I don't drink every night.
No.
I drink on the weekends.
And not even every weekend. Aren't
no.
you in the midst of dry January?
I am.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Is it still dry?
It is, yeah.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And that's something that we play up, Of course we do. If
everything's
I
inflated.
gave you my boring ass life of going to bed at 7:30, you're not going to want to listen.
Yeah, right. Well, what did you do last night, Scott? Took the kids to gymnastics, came home, fed them, and had a fight to get them showered and into bed. That's about it.
Right, exactly. So there is some extra.
Yeah.
If you will. And that's just the entertainment value of it.
And who's really going to be interested that I took a trip to New York City on the company dime because I ended up meeting the corporate engineer there? Oh, that's exciting. Let me tell you all about that.
I didn't know it was on the company dime.
Yeah, never mind. You don't need it. 10% is private.
I want to go on the company dime.
So, I had things I had to see. So,
dang it.
But at any rate, that all being said, swept that out of the way. There's room for everybody. Just relax. Everybody breathe, okay?
Yeah.
Now, the real story goes like this to eliminate the fangirl part of this, because I just also took care of the answer to why I didn't get part of the trip paid to New York City, if you will. So I just told you the answer.
Yeah.
A huge amount of it was written off. So here's what it comes down to is the real story. And, for a lot of reasons, a lot of this had to be kind of kept quiet for a long period of time, mainly because I sit across from the nosiest person. I mean, I had to keep a lot of it quiet because, look, there was some stuff going on in life, and even though things were developing, it wasn't the centerpiece at that time of my life. There were other things that were happening that had to happen. So back in April, 6059 won $1,000 from the radio station.
Yep.
And came into, we if you win a big prize, we like to take a picture with you. We like to be like, oh my gosh, you are the person that won, whatever it is. You won the new car.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had met up front. And there was a bit of a spark there between both of us. Both of us were both terrified to even mention anything or not. And here's the thing. She had been texting the show, but I never paid direct attention to 6059. I thought it was like 3490. They text every day. 7100. Another. By the way, for those that don't know what I'm talking about, we have a text line, which is what we have found is the primary way people communicate with the Scott and Allie show. You can, by the way, listen to it on demand on your favorite platform too. Hear different segments. We shout out the last 4 digits, unless told not to by the person, of their phone number as a way of saying who you are, because we don't really know who you are, but at the same time we want to recognize you, and it's not just us and our voices, it's really you guys. We're just saying what you said. So I never paid attention to the fact that 6059 was texting and very regular. I really thought it was like a couple of the regular people that were just there. Well, she was regular, all right. And
honestly, for the most part, we'd never even see what these people look like.
No.
2666.
I don't even know if you're a guy or girl half the time.
Same. Yeah. 2666 was somebody we met over the fall time, which was really cool because.
Now, wait, is that my soup friend?
Nope. That the 2666, we mentioned her on the podcast before too. That's Sherry that we met at the Harvest Festival. She was the soup person came later, and I don't remember her number.
She gave me a lasagna soup recipe. Very tasty.
7100, we know what he looks like because
he brings you bourbon. Playing back into that, not drinking that much.
No, he came to, well, so on top of that, he came to a wine endorsement thing that I used to do back in the day. I used to do a Sunday fun day.
Yeah.
And that's where I originally met. His name's John. John and his
John's
wife.
great.
John and his wife, Ann. 3490, I used to go to church with her. So there are some people that I just know because, however our lives intertwine. But for the most part, I don't know what you guys look like, and I'm dying to know.
Right. Send a picture with anytime you text.
Exactly.
So at any rate, after the pickup of the prize, and I still didn't put together that 6059 was one of the $1,000 winners in the past. I had no idea. There was no thing. Well, she continued to text.
Yeah.
Now, again, I backpedal a little bit here because I had a lot going on in my life from April, May, June, and then really all the way until December. There was a ton going on in my life that had me very distracted from noticing somebody. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, really picking up and noticing somebody.
I would agree with that.
And she even said, she goes, I was throwing it out there and you just weren't picking it up. And I'm like,
it's hard too because we're both reading the text messages.
Right.
So, sometimes I would read, and I wasn't looking at it in that way either.
Sure.
But you have to keep in mind when you do text us that we both can see it.
Well, then she told me, she goes, I was ready to throw in the towel and give it up. And she goes, you finally got it. It was the fundraiser when she had said, I would buy from your kids' fundraiser. And remember, I made her on that show, I made her come down and go, well, then put your money where your mouth is. I said those exact words. I said, come on down.
Because he wanted Lydia to win like a bracelet or something.
Yeah, right. It's terrible. So, at any rate, and she did, and she came down. Now, she was ready to throw in the towel at that point. But again, I still hadn't noticed it. So anyway, now that day, she's in studio. And this is where it gets either really sweet for some people, or if you're like Allie, who you know me very well, and we both, Allie and I, have a disdain for each other's way of flirting or our way we attract. Like I know what Allie's flirting. I mean, you don't anymore because Zach's in the picture. But back in the day, I'm like, here we go. It's like climbing the roller coaster, and then all of a sudden she gets to the top, and it's woo! We're off at 1,000 miles an hour.
I'm so extra on the flirting.
Oh, it's great. I mean, I see it, but then again, I mean, there's
because I don't want there to be any mixed signals.
No.
That's how I operate. Is like, oh, you want to see my boobies later?
Oh my god. So, at any rate, she stayed. You had left the room for a few minutes, left us alone in the room, and I was sitting like I am now, and I was doing some work on the side because it was post show. And I stood up because she's a little thing, not like, 4 feet, but she was sitting down
Close
and
enough.
I have a wall of monitors in front of me. So I had to stand up to really see her. And then it was very sweet because on the way out, and she didn't tell me this till later, she goes, on the way out, she goes, you gave me the smile and you gave me the kind of the look. And she goes, I knew he was starting to get it. And what you don't know is I contacted her later that day privately because I had asked her. I said, "Is it okay if I reach out afterwards?" I forget what my line was. I'm sure it was something horribly cheesy. But then it grew from there. So
should I really embarrass you?
Oh God!
Because
you're not gonna.
Because right before that, he had said, something about, and I can edit this out if you want me to, but he was like, wait, show me your picture again from social media. Remember when you had me pull up her picture?
She's not on social. That's why.
I know. And I said, because you were speculating that she was throwing out some hints. So you were like, pull up her picture again. Because I said, she's the one that won the $1,000.
Yeah. I didn't remember it all. It didn't register.
And so you're like, pull up her picture. So I said, I know exactly who she is now. As soon as like there were some texts that came in, I'm like, oh, yep. And I knew her name because like for some reason I have a ridiculously good memory for names, especially people who are associated with the station. So I was like, oh yeah, I remember this winner. So I pulled up her picture right away and showed Scott. I was like, remember her? Oh yeah. Okay. Yes. So
I still didn't. I'm not going to lie. I didn't. I still didn't. So leave it in.
I wasn't going to say that part.
No, it's okay because the funny part about it is it's when she came in that time that it all hit me. I'm like, I think I might be into this, you know? I mean, that you know how your brain works. You're like,
well, first of all, not only was it you meet her at winning the $1,000, you meet her for the fundraiser, and then it was the boo buckets. That was the final thing.
Well, and also she did
the boo buckets was this is for listeners who don't know. The boo buckets was a conversation we had on the air about instead of Easter baskets, you give boo buckets. And so what 6059 did
for Halloween, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, boo bucket. Yeah, I guess I should.
Maybe that. I didn't need to throw that in. I don't.
So she ended up buying like these little cute bags for Gavin, Lydia, and myself.
Yes.
And brought us
my
all,
third child. Fourth child, I guess, really, now that I think about it.
Brought us all in boo buckets. That was a conversation on the show.
Yep.
With Lego sets in it from Aldi's.
It was very sweet.
Something we also talked about that we couldn't find. Remember, we were looking at all these different Aldi's and couldn't find it. And then I think
those Legos.
Right. And I think that was the quote, nail in the coffin.
Well,
get it, boo.
Hey, now. And here's the funny part, because obviously we very much are doing our thing, and it's very healthy and very good, and that's so refreshing. I mean that because it's been a run recently, but I say that in the sense of her daughter was over. Now her daughter is 19, goes to college, really well-rounded young lady.
Hey, instant babysitter.
Yeah, well, and the kids love her and all that.
You're like, well,
and she goes, well, my mom's love language is gift giving. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing that's also happened since this has happened, I now have to really watch my weight. There have been more than one trip with donuts delivered to the radio station.
Mm-hmm. Can you deliver a salad, 6059?
Yes. How
if
about
that's
we
your
go
love
salad?
language, I love a good.
I'm with you.
Give me a good grilled chicken salad from OIP.
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you on the salad part. That would be...
My mom's is too. I think that's a maternal thing. My mom loves giving gifts. She'll see something at the store that just reminds her of, like, it might be something that reminds her of Zach. Zach plays hockey, and she's like, oh, there's a... hockey towel or whatever.
Yeah.
And, and I think that's very sweet.
Oh, look, I feel very lucky. We've had a very, very early on agreement because both of us, and we've made this statement, and this is a horrible statement to say to someone, but there's truth to it when you say neither one of us are getting any younger. There's no time to, no
time to waste.
No, there's no time to waste. There's no time. I don't have time to mess around in that. This is either going to be the right and wrong. And we've made a very clear promise to each other to be very open, very honest. Mm-hmm.
No secrets.
Yeah, independence, yes, but
no skeletons in the closet.
No, and if you're feeling a certain way or something's going on, then you share with the other person. And can I tell you the interesting thing about that? Because I think a lot of times in relationships, people say that, like, oh, I want honesty. I want us to be able to say what we want to each other. But you really, you don't know how to do it. And I don't know where I learned to do it. Maybe the fact that I was lucky enough to see a therapist to get my thoughts straight, to say, okay, now I understand why I have to do this a certain way. But we've even said to each other, we want to get this right. We don't want to screw this up with stupid stuff getting in the way. Like, well, these are my feelings. I should come out and say them. But instead, like too many people do, I'm going to hold them in. And what do? It becomes the volcano effect.
Yes.
And it starts to build. The pressure builds. And then you draw apart in certain ways. And you...
I heard a stand-up comedian reference it in a way the other day because he said that his girlfriend broke up with him. And he goes, I got this letter It was basically like she was passing legislation. It was that long on everything that I did wrong in the entire relationship. And he goes, and I knew nothing of that. Like, wait a second, are we passing legislation or are we in a relationship? Come on.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And both of us have said the same thing. Now, I will say this too. Again, it's not my story to tell, so I won't tell it. But she had gone through some stuff, and she did something where she took a long period of time, multiple years, to kind of rediscover who she was and all that. And, in my case, and I was lucky, I didn't take multiple years, but I had some help outside of my immediateness or my own head to go, Scott, you really have been out of a relationship well over a year. The problem is you did the long goodbye, and the long goodbye takes a long time for some people. And I didn't, if I did the math based on this date, 17 months I was out. I didn't know until April of last year that I was out.
Wouldn't you
Even though I really now know, looking back at a much higher altitude, if you will, I was out long before that. It was really an over with thing. So, but I don't know how many people that's happened to.
Wouldn't you say, though, it's still always a work in progress, though? You were saying like,
the relationship?
No, when you were saying like, you saw outside help and knowing your feelings, knowing your thoughts. It's going to be, things are going to change in the current relationship.
Oh, yes.
So those feelings are still it's going to be an evolution no matter what.
But I think the foundation of knowing, look, I've had relationships where I was younger. And it
dumber.
Well, yeah, you are just dumber when you're younger,
yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
So I've had relationships where I was younger, different things happen in my life at different times where maybe if I was in a more mature position, decisions would have been different. That person may have ended up much closer of a friendship than something else. You know what I mean? Like if you look back and you can really reflect on the relationships in your past, minus everybody, I don't care who you are. Maybe the number is 1. Maybe the number is 10. Everybody's had a toxic relationship where they end up going, oh my gosh, I have learned so much from that toxic relationship.
Yep.
And unfortunately, a lot of times you don't see it when you're in it. That's the unfortunate part to it. You're living it day to day and you don't see it, or you're trying to pull a cover over it.
Right.
Not to put a pillow on the face next and kill the person, but just you're trying to,
I wanted to.
You're moving. You're just trying to move through your daily life, and sometimes you're trying to move through your daily life just to have a little bit of peace and calmness, and you're not really focused on, oh my God, these are red flags, and so I.
By the way, I'm smiling because you're saying most people don't know when they're in the toxic relationship, but I was in one and knew it, and I still was like, why?
But did you know early on? Not early on.
Yeah, I did.
You did.
I tried to break up with him 3 months in, and he wouldn't leave. And I'm like, oh, so.
You ever heard of changing the locks?
I know, I should have. It was a totally weird thing.
So you just proved my point. For a lot of people with those relationships, you literally are just now moving day to day. You're attempting to maintain a level of peace, and you're attempting to just get through it without confrontation, without issue, and that becomes your new normal. And it sucks, and it really, really sucks.
Can't even tell you why I stayed. I mean, I knew it was so toxic, and I can't even give you a good reason, because I was like, I'm smarter than this, and I knew so much. I'm like, I'm better than this. I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. Why am I living like this?
And that requires you to have to gain a massive strength to get up and go, I'm done. And honestly, you have to be, if you're going to do that, you have to be 100% honest with yourself and 100% honest with the other person.
No, I'll be honest about something. I know not everyone believes in like God or an upper power or anything like that, but I was like, God, either you have to give him a 180 or something has to happen. And I caught him in a cheat. And it needed to happen.
That was your thing.
I am loyal to a fault.
I get that.
And so that is what I needed.
Now, I will say too, there are those relationships that things are a certain way at a certain time, and then over time they grow in different directions. And I've had that happen too.
Oh yeah, where you become like roommates.
Well,
you mean that?
yeah,
Like
a little
that?
bit more like that. Or, certain things happen as the relationship goes. Maybe it's a financial thing, whatever. And the frustration just gets to a point. I don't know that this can be repaired. And sometimes, you just have to step away. And if you're lucky, down the road, those become okay. You could become friends, or you could, things like that. I mean, I don't stay in contact with a lot of my exes. I stay in contact with my ex-wife because we have a 22-year-old together.
Yeah.
I mean, should I maybe be in a little more contact with her? Sure. But at the same time, we have our own lives and this and that. Do I still care for her? Absolutely. Sure. I mean, come on, we have a kid together and we had a life together at a certain time where that was our time for that life, if you will. That was
your season.
That was that season. And it was fine. I mean, I have nothing, I can't say anything negative. I mean, although we could make the classic ex jokes, I'm not going to say anything negative. I'm just going to say that was that season. And you know what? I can always remember if it's a season, that was a good summer. You know what I mean? Like you have everybody had the summer relationships when they were kids, right?
God, I had a great summer relationship on Seneca Lake. I'll never forget that relationship.
And unfortunately, that summer was the summer of whatever year. And now this is, a different time and a different place.
Yeah.
But what I have learned is the going at it and really tackling it up front right. And I don't think I've done that. If I have done it, I don't think I've ever done it properly. I'll be honest with you, in my life till now. And that is a huge admission because I don't want to say I wasted time with my ex-wife. I'm just using my ex-wife as an example because after many years, we're no longer, it's been 13 plus years. The relationship's different from where it ended to where it is now. And even from where it was when we started. I was a kid, for God's sake, practically. I was in my early 20s, So, I wasn't thinking like, let's go at this in a different way. I tell you, it's a crazy different maturity that's happening with this, and it happens
at all different ages. I just had that conversation with one of my girlfriends. She was saying how so Zach and I early on, I was actually him early on that said, if you want children, I'm not your person.
God, I appreciate that honesty.
Mm-hmm. And that came within like the first month or two. Yeah. And one of my girlfriends and I were talking about another group of friends that we have, and we just don't think that they've had that conversation, and we think they're going to come to that where like one wants it, one doesn't want it. And that's what I'm saying. These are like major things that have to happen early on and you have to be mature enough to do it. Not everybody is. Scott, I mean, you're learning this at 50 some years old.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll still be 52 when this is released.
Okay. Well, you're still learning it at 50 some years old.
Yeah.
And, some people might learn it in their 20s. Some people might learn it in their 30s. Some people maybe never.
What can I tell you?
What?
It has brought me a level of happiness that I have not had in a long time. Maybe not ever quite like this.
Yep.
I'm not saying I've never been happy. Don't get me wrong. That's not.
No,
at
I
all.
understand that. I say to Zach, I was never in love prior to him. Never. I loved people. I was in relationships with people. I was not in love with those people.
Yeah.
Once I met him, I was like, oh, now I understand what it's like to be in love.
It's really wild.
And that comes with different things. Like at the beginning, we were, we never fought for like the first like year and a half.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
Well, you did have a pandemic on your side there.
Well, that's what we say too, is like, well, I mean, all we had was each other, you know, whatever. So we never fought for the first year and a half. And that was great. That still comes with like, yeah, we have arguments now. We moved in together. We have discussions. But I still am in love with him despite that, because I still respect him in those arguments. So loving him comes in all different forms.
Sure.
But
sure.
Are you done groveling now?
Well, I honestly, it was a really good, healthy conversation.
See? I think she just misunderstood then.
No, you were the one that called her the fangirl and made it sound like it was, a concert and we're backstage and she's about to get an autograph.
No, but I still think that she was she was a fan. She was listening and texting for a long time. I still think that she was a fan of you.
Do you know long before?
Or was she more the fan of me?
Long before she had even won. She has now told me, she goes, I wondered what it would be like to be with you. And we're talking probably years ago. So,
really?
But she
That's
goes,
so shocking to me.
Oh God, why do I call you a friend? And
well, I mean, don't you feel the same way about me? Like, why would anybody
I'm looking at you right now on the screen, sitting here going, "You're right. Why would anybody?"
I know. Oh my gosh! Even yesterday, Zach was like, "You look sick," and I was like, "I know." He goes, "No, I'm serious." He goes,
I love him.
The coloring of your skin. He goes, "You're not like as bright eyed as you usually are. Like you're just
you're
like
a little squinty."
Yesterday, I looked gray. He's like, "You just have no color." Today, I'm
Allie's a corpse in the studio right now.
Today, I'm like sweating and dying.
Get it out.
I know. I'm like every single day, my body temperature is like.
I will tell you,
sickness.
The funny part is when she said that, the person that I am, because I don't look at myself and think, ooh, you're a hot guy. You're God's gift to women. Women really fall at your feet. In fact, rarely do women fall at my feet unless their heel broke. And, it's, I was a bit shocked to hear that. She's like, oh, I wondered what it would be like a long time ago.
See?
And,
fangirl. I don't change my mind.
That's not a fangirl.
I don't know. Yes, it is.
No.
Like I said in the last podcast, of course, I envision myself naked with Will Arnett. I still am saying the same thing in this podcast. My mind has not been changed. It's just different now because now you're in a relationship. You guys know each other in a different way. She's a fan of you in a different way.
Well, that's true. We're a fan of each other.
Right. But, of course.
God help me.
But at one point, she was a fangirl. She was envisioning what you were going to be like. Burn chicka, burn.
But you have to sit back. You have to eyebrows. You have to sit back and you think to yourself, has anybody ever told you?
You can fangirl somebody and not, that it doesn't have to even be celebrity status. I can fangirl somebody who like works in another department or something like that. I think that can even be, that can be a fangirl thing.
Okay. So, do you
crushing?
What?
Crushing.
Okay, so let me ask you this. What? You and I, we're not, the most we get when it comes to any sort of level of celebrity status.
I'm not a celebrity.
Is people going, oh, my kids love to listen to you. And I'm like, okay.
No, that's not true. I was at Wegmans the other day and somebody did have a reaction. They were like, oh my God, it's you.
Yeah, well, that does happen. But I mean,
and she was like probably 22 or something.
But it's not as though The Rock walked in and people are like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, it shocks me when someone goes, I thought you were attractive and would have been interested a while back. I'm like, really?
Shocks me too.
And I was about to give you a compliment.
Oh, go ahead.
Now I can give you a compliment?
Give me a compliment while I'm feeling like dog butts.
Well, you look 10 years younger with your hair like that and the hoodie like this. I mean, I actually think right now, if you're watching on YouTube, Allie looks younger than she has in a long time. Not saying you look old every day.
Why do you think that's...
I don't know if it's the lighting. I don't know if it's the fact that we're having conversations about being in good relationships that suddenly I look at you and I'm like, oh, look, she's got like a little halo around her. No, you look...
I think it's the lighting and the fact that I'm sweating from being sick.
Oh, it's so you have a little glistening.
Oh my gosh, I have like drips of sweat.
Ha! That's because you're around me, don't you know?
No. Ever since this sickness this week, how many times have I said how hot I've been?
I think you look hot right now in this picture.
I mean, you look really temperature hot.
No, that was a compliment to you.
Thank you.
I don't know what it is, but right now you look really good.
Thank you. Zach said, actually, I've gotten a couple compliments on my skin in the past week.
Maybe that's what it is. What do you use? Are you exfoliating?
I am. I'm exfoliating. I'm drinking lots of water.
Good.
I do use retinol.
I'm still bald.
Yeah. Me too. You just can't see it.
Oh, hey, whoa. All right, we're done.
I'm done sweating.
See you next
Bye.
week.
Well, that was fun. Wasn't that fun? That was fun. Do us a favor, will you? Subscribe. Share the Scott and Allie Not for Air podcast. Touch our buttons. We know you want to.